There we go. Ksiva v'chasima teva l'shana teva musuka. It should be all written and sealed for a good and sweet year where we have great nachas from our children, wonderful family life, good health, and livelihood. All of it, the harchava, with plenty. And it should be done, we should receive it all with tranquility of soul, tranquility of the body. And it should be all in revealed and open goodness that we can taste the sweetness of what we have been given. That is my bracha to everybody for Rosh Hashanah, the new year. We call it Rosh, the head of the year, because of the way the head goes, the rest of the body of the year follows. Therefore, very important. Jewish people should hear the blowing of the shofar, blowing of the ram's horn tomorrow and on Friday. Make a festive meal. Say lots of Tehillim, Psalms. And if you have a Chabad near you, go to Chabad. If you didn't register, you can still go. You're always welcome. And if you don't have a Chabad near you, and wherever you go, to connect with Hashem, to coronate him as the king. Because, in fact, he is. We've tried to be the king, and yeah, that's when we spoil things in our lives. So let him be king, and let us be his servants. How lucky we are that we can be, indeed, his servants. Welcome to Tanya. Today, I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We conclude in the 19th letter a thought about letters. There's letters that you see in a book. In other words, there's language that you read the physicality from a physical book, like a Torah scroll. There are letters of speech that we hear, right? And each letter has a specific energy force to it. As words matter, letters that make up the words in the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are a divine energy and a force. So when you read it in a book, it's one kind of divine energy. When you hear it in conversation, it's a different form of divine energy. As when you hear it in speech, then those letters are now being pronounced, and there is articulation. There is the movement of the 5 organs of speech: the mouth, the teeth, the tongue, the palate, and the larynx. All of that to enunciate and utter. And the 22 letters that are not just in the Hebrew language, but in all languages. And again, there's a letter of thought, which is not because I read something in a book, not because I heard something from someone, but there's letters that I think in my mind itself, right? Again, which number 22. Now, in thought, so you have then the 3 letters in thought, right? The way it's pictured from the book, the way it is heard from someone's speech, and then, that thought, those letters can be thereafter from the book that you read. It can still be an imprint that's made on the mind and thoughts, individuals, and the way you heard it in speech. And of course, the way you think it yourself, right? They all reflect three different worlds. The way I see it in physicality, and I think it, and others read it in the Torah scroll or in a book, is thought the way it is in the world of Asiya, the world of action. The way I hear it, it's the way it's in the world of Yitzira, the world of formation. And then the way I think it myself, it's thought of thought, right? Not thought of something that I heard or thought that something that I physically read. That's thought of the world of Bria. It's a higher form, a more abstract one. So, and of course, they ultimately then become, in thought, the vital force of the words that we communicate, we speak. Even though sometimes you might be thinking one thing and speak another thing, but you can't speak something that you haven't spoken already. If you're not thinking it, because usually it's the power of the thought, that language of the letters that we think, that now vests itself in the speech that we speak. So the way it is in thought, so in the spiritual terms, this refers to spheroids, the hindmost aspect of the external of the letter of Netzach Hoiden Yesoid, that take from the highest intellective faculties of Moichan, of brains. And that's it. This is tied in with a similar concept that we learned yesterday, but I'll leave it at that for now. Bottom line is, we think before we speak. Maybe this is what we take home, because the vital force of what we think vests itself in the words that we say. And thought is the closest expression of ourselves to ourselves. And that is to be expressed authentically in the words that we share with others. I'll leave it there. As tonight is Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, new year, 5785, Tavshin Pei Hey. Should be a year of breaking all boundaries for redemption, personal redemption, collective redemption of Mashiach now. So it's an important time, to think about the power that God has invested in us. God gives us life. He gives us things in our lives, people in our lives. Of course, most importantly, So we want to make sure that we're using everything that we've been given to do one thing, to serve the divine purpose we were created for. So on Rosh Hashanah, it's a day of coronation. And who coronates? From the simplest person to the greatest sage. We all have the power to make Hashem the king. And that's what he's waiting for. And that's what the blow of the shofar is. That brings new vital life, vital force, vital life, divine energy into the world. That renews God's greater commitment to the entire world and to me specifically. As a result, that's why we will have a wonderful, sweet, good year as a result, which is amazing. That's what will be provided. So our part is just to make sure we hear the shofar, say our prayers, and make Hashem king over me, over me and through me, the entire universe. All right. Jeff has a question. The Tetragrammaton, follow this lesson. What would you say is the main way to sum up this chapter and how we can use it today? Perhaps even in a way that we use it tonight when speaking tonight. So this last part, well, about our thoughts that vest itself in our speech. But what we learned previously in this chapter, to sum it up, is divine wisdom, God's Torah, has an internal and external component to it. The internal part is the fact that it's bound up in one with the Ein Sof, with the infinite of Hashem. And the second component is that it vests itself in creation to animate all of creation, and vests itself into the mitzvahs that give us some kind of comprehension of the mitzvahs, or some type of wisdom. So the wisdom that drips down from it into the Torah and the mitzvahs is the external aspect, which brings us to the do's and the don'ts, right? And their importance. External is not a negative thing here. External just means the grasp we have on it. But then there's an aspect of the Torah that is the light of Torah. That's the garb of Torah, right? So your garb, the sleeve has got a measure to it, the length of it, the width of it, right? The way it's fitting on your shoulders, everything has a measure to it. So the divine wisdom, as it comes into the physical reality of this world, the mitzvahs have a measure to them and how they're to be fulfilled, right? A shofar has to be a certain measure, for example. It has certain laws and parameters on what is a kosher shofar, for example. Food, what's kosher, of course. But then there's the light inside of it. The light inside of it is the internal aspect, the way it's bound up with Hashem, that reflects in the divine wisdom on how everything is a connection with the infinite of Hashem. Oh, the infinite of Hashem. And yeah, that would be, and that's for the teachings of Hasidus, of Tanya, like what we're learning. It's the light of the that's been garbed. So you need both the light and the garb as it comes out. That's it. And breathe. All right, folks. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad Zurich Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Again, wishing everybody we should be written and sealed for a good and sweet year beyond our expectations. It should be amazing. And God willing, it will be. Klal Yisrael, amongst all of the Jewish people in Israel throughout, and that they be successful in ridding the world of darkness, of evil, and bringing the final redemption.